Hello and welcome to episode 183 of the Veeam Community Recap. I'm back in town, but I am at home. Maddie's back in town. She is at home. We are back somewhat normal circumstances in this crazy week. Madalena, we didn't get a video last week. I feel guilty, but otherwise, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Rick, and yeah, just hello and hello everyone. Very busy since I got back from Asia, as I mentioned it previously, and I'm a bit happy. You know that I love traveling, but I am a bit happy that I'm not traveling until the end of October, I think. So I have time to work on all the projects that are pending. So that's pretty good. Um, Other than that, it's raining today. Pretty autumn weather in here. No more summer, no more 40 degrees. So that's good.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a cool down as well. I think overnight we were down to like 4, which was like really low for this type. But today, I think today we'll be back to like 32. So still a little warm here. But yeah, I had a big stretch of travel last week down in Chile and Argentina. Chile was a new country for me. It's kind of rare that I get a new country nowadays. And that was awesome because that was our first Veeam on tour there. And that was great.
Mhm.
As you know, those Veeam on tours are so important to those local markets. We had Alfred on stage, but a big apologies for last week. I had connectivity challenges everywhere. So no internet that I was using would have been good enough for the recap. So
Yeah.
apologies for that. That's why it was post only, but we are back in business. You ready to jump into it?
Yeah, let's do it. We have a lot of great content today as well. Last week it was a lot of great content as well, so we shared it with everyone. But
Hmm.
yeah, let's jump into it. Let's discuss it.
All right, Mr. Security. First up is Christian. He's got a topic about hardening a VBR server with AppLocker. Now, I have not used AppLocker, but I have used something like it, and I like where he's going with this. This is a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's just discussing this one way, to harden your VBR. And this one is with the app locker. And he says, like, hey, Microsoft app locker itself is not really like a zero trust principle, but then you can use it as part of your broader security strategy. And that could potentially achieve zero trust principle. But he says, like, hey, by using app locker, organizations can limit user access to only authorized applications, which kind of aligns with the least privilege access principle of zero trust. So, it's kind of improve the application control management. And what I like is, like, in the note, he says, like, I think it's important to, for everyone to keep in mind that AppLocker doesn't really replace your antivirus software, but instead it works along with, alongside to help prevent the execution of unauthorized applications. So that's a really good point in there. And then he says, while the antivirus detects and removes malicious software, AppLocker, it's kind of strengthening your security by blocking unwanted or unapproved applications from running in the first place. So basically, you get a more comprehensive defense against threats. And what I can see from the comments, he's planning to discuss as well Windows Defender application control concept. And yeah, we are looking forward to that one, because
Yeah.
it's going to be good to just put it in parallel and see when you need which one, what would be better for your use case. So
Yeah, this is great stuff, Christian. I really appreciate you sharing this. And I love this kind of idea of only allowing selected executables to run. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. This is something that if an individual is going to use this for their Veeam deployment, from a supportability standpoint, first thing we'd probably have to do is turn it off if we're trying to diagnose something. But really good stuff. Really appreciate you sharing that. And I just love these types of kind of creative looks on how you can build that security profile. So good stuff, Christian. Thank you so much. Not to go too far from Christian, we're now going to go to Chris to talk about Object First and Veeam interoperability. And I think Chris is bringing some details here.
Yeah, I mean, he put together like a series, and I believe this is not the first time when we are talking about this series. This is blog 3 from the series. I don't know how many blogs he's going to have in this series, but I guess he's going to still test and share his learnings. But in this specific post, Chris discusses the integration of Object First OTB into the Veeam console and shows us some backup statistics on the appliance's performance. Then he's giving us a full demo in there. If you scroll down, it's gonna just be a lot of print screens in there. He's showing us the how to integrate the ODB appliance into the Veeam BNR console by adding it as a repository under the backup infrastructure tab. After ODB was added, he says like to the Veeam console, he creates a backup job and run it to see how Sosapi performed. Chris tells us the Veeam job topped out at 1 GB per second, and the object first ingest for both S3 API and network was about the same. Now, since Chris says, hey, I had a physical Veeam, if I had a physical Veeam server with 10 gigabytes connections, I would get better throughput numbers. And then he says also, if I had more nodes with my object first cluster, that would also scale the performance, but this is just a single node. So what I want to do in here is actually to challenge Chris to run more tests with more gigabytes connections and more nodes. What do you think, Chris, about that? I'm very curious on the stats.
Well, your mileage will always vary. Source target is a factor. Source and target storage performance, both of them. Number of nodes, physical, virtual, type of network. This is an area that I clearly myself have been in the software business too long, because back in the day I used to do a lot of hardware kind of benchmark speeds and feeds and stuff, and I'm so far removed from that nowadays. But I will say one thing, and you hit on it, Maddie. I love how you call it Sosapi. I love that. The Smart Object Storage API. I've never actually made it a word, but you did. I love that.
How would you pronounce that?
I just say Smart Object Storage API
Okay.
or SOSAPI.
It's always good. It's a nice word.
Yeah. So we'll have to come back to that. I was like, I know what you're talking about, but I've never called it that. But that's cool. But anyways, that's a pretty unique differentiator. I don't remember the number, but it's like literally a handful or two of object storage providers who support the Smart Object Storage API from Veeam. So that is a difference maker, right? Especially when it comes to multi-node and larger deployments. So something to watch, and great write up. And again, Chris, the series here, I think this might be, no, that's Christian, another post. But there's a lot of Object First reviews going out. Hat tip to Jeff in the Object Storage ACES program. They're doing a great job of getting different individuals playing with this appliance, because it's harder to do with software versus hardware, because hardware, you got to get it there. So Chris had a chance to be hands-on. So thank you for sharing, Chris. All right. Next up, someone whose name doesn't start with Chris. We're going to go to Jim. And Jim, also known as Kool-Aid IT in the Vanguard world, happy to call your name out here, talking about upgrading Veeam backup and replication to version 12.2 with automation of the Veeam Service Provider console. Very, very specific, rather, high-end, complicated type of thing. And I'm so glad that, Jim, you're sharing some of your secrets here. This is great, Maddie.
Yeah, totally. So he says like, hey, this is like mostly for service providers, or if you just try to leverage a VCPC enabled Veeam Cloud Connect, one of the option is to basically leverage VCPC to automate the upgrade of one or more Veeam backup and replications to the latest version. So very, very specific, as you said. And he's explaining all that and shares a great step-by-step demo in 7 simple steps. One thing that I actually wanted to ask you, what I was reading through this article, he says at some point, I don't know if you can find that paragraph. I think it's just before all this script in red, if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken. If you just go a bit, scroll a bit up, 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 there. I think I'll add that I don't love, especially in the case of an upgrade, that you have to put passwords for the database and system in here. If you are running VBR as a named user, have the DB off box, but it is what it is for now. What do you think about this content? This comment, is it something you agree with? Do you think?
Well, first of all, I haven't used the service provider console that
Okay.
much in the last few years. I do lean on Anthony on our team for that. But I also would say that when we're talking about an upgrade, that's an ephemeral task. That's a moment. It's not like a
Mhm.
persistent day to day thing. So I would context it that way. I will tell you that, if we look at what is coming next with our products, the kind of interoperability, this type of stuff is top of mind for sure. But I
Right.
mean, again, this is also when we're doing it with automation, there's always the interactive upgrade,
Mhm.
which is on scale a little bit more work. So there's pros and cons to every approach is my short
Yeah.
take on that. But
Yeah,
no
I
big
was just curious to hear
yeah.
on your opinion on that, but maybe Anthony can jump in and he tells us his opinion if he's the expert in it.
Yeah, that and he's had more experience with the service provider console, but I can tell you, I'm looking. It's like it's got some of the new web UI elements. I can see that we have some of through of our other products and stuff, and just seeing how it's doing what it's doing with some of these screenshots, it's pretty cool. So, whoops, I didn't log in, but thank you, Jim, for sharing that. This is good stuff.
Hmm. Thank you, Jim, and hopefully we'll mention your name more often.
Yeah, right on, right on. And that is three. That's our featured content. And Jim is a Vanguard, which is a good segue to our Vanguard blog spotlight. And we're going to spotlight Falco with an object storage sizing post here. And wow, this is super thorough. But Falco's from Germany. I wouldn't expect anything different. This is
Yeah,
this
right.
this is yeah, this is pretty good stuff, Maddie.
Yes, I totally agree. And I feel like, our members of the community and Veeam 100 members, they started writing this kind of series, which I have to admit, I love it. I love the series. I feel like it's a really good way to go. So great series in here, Falco. As you said, he's discussing sizing and architecting for using object storage with Veeam backup and replication. And in the first part, he's covering, as he mentions in there, calculating the real block size on disk, and then general best practices when using Veeam and object storage. And he's going over the block sizes that we can select. He says 8 MB, 4 MB, and 1 MB. He says, hey, keep in mind 8 MB block size will only be visible when you add a registry key. So he's showing us how to do that to the VBR server. And even so, he says like it is not recommended. I don't know your opinion on that. Um,
Well,
is it
the thought here is if you determine that you need it, it's worth
okay?
going to do, and then know what you've done to undo it. And this is
Okay.
also a good opportunity to do, before and after benchmarking. Whenever you go into these advanced types of things, and Falco, he's all hail. I mean, Falco is really sharp. He was one of the team members who did the Beat the Ghost dev a few years ago. So these types of little knobs and dials, I really value Falco's view here.
Yeah, and then he's discussing why do you need to get the real block size and calculate an average block size. I'm not really gonna get into all details in there, but what everyone should go and read it because it's super interesting and super good information. But what I will mention, there is a script that can gather all the restore point statistics of your backup jobs that was created by one of our SAs, Matthias in Germany, and that can facilitate your work in there. And then Falco is showing us how we can properly calculate the average block size. At the end, a really good paragraph on best practices when sizing and architecting for object storage. And yeah, there is also like mentioning that script from Matthias. There is a link to the GitHub. So in case you wanted to check it out, there is a link there you can definitely go to his GitHub. So I'm sure there are more great resources in there. So it's worth having a look. Other than that, looking forward to more blogs on this subject. I believe Falco already put together the second part. He just didn't add it here to conclusion. So yeah, just add it there for everyone, Falco.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
think he shared something about part two at the community hub. So yeah, there you go. It's just there. Yeah.
Mm. I love that, his Falco side is littered with well, there's me, but Veeam and in the program, that's also cool too. So rock on Falco. So hey, this is fantastic. And I really like, by the way, Nicola, thank you for relaying some of these Vanguard Spotlight blogs that Nikki and Sophia have brought up here, because I think it's good to share these other properties, and this is awesome. So thank you, Falco. Keep it up. All right, time for special department news. I'm actually going to add something, Maddie, that I didn't tell you about. Let's see here. I
Let's
want to
see.
check. Yeah,
Surprises, surprises.
yeah, surprises, eh? So I want to go to this KB here. I want to just check here. I like to do this every now and then. I think it was 77 before. I want to just see what the offline file version is real quick. It's always tough opening. I bet it's new number. Let's see. It was 77. Oh, it's 81, and we're still having fun. Okay, so it's Rev 81. So if you're using Veeam Backup and Replication and you're not connected to the internet, we do need to update this file. Now let's see, who are some of the new ransomwares that we're looking for? I've not heard of those two. I've not heard of that one. I have heard of some of the ones ahead. So there's definitely been some new additions. So if you have your Veeam Backup and Replication server off the internet, you would want to update this file, especially for that file system index detection that we use. So I'm always looking out for everyone, right? Letting everybody know. And then also keep in mind that Veeam, we featured this specifically last week, but keep in mind that 12.2 has gone available. So you'll want to check out KB 2680 for information on 12.2, how to update in their 4600 specifically for that release, right? So you'll want to check that out. So just a reminder, we covered it last week, but I just want to highlight, good idea to update. Okay, now we officially are going into special department news. And first up, Albert Fu, watch this guy. He is good. And Mars from our
China.
China team. Yeah. And now I will say I did already a translation, but let me untranslate. How do I untranslate? Maybe I'll just do that. This one will be in Mandarin. I believe it'll be
Mhm.
Mandarin, and online event. And they're going to talk about VCSP and backup as a service there in China. And I think that's going to be awesome.
That's fantastic. This is our first VUG China event ever. So thank you, Albert. Thank you, Mars, for putting this together. If if you have some time, of course, if you work in the Chinese market, you work with Veeam, VCSPs, BUS, solution. If you understand Mandarin, that would be a good point. Join us on September 19th. It's going to be a really great discussion in there. As you said, Albert is super knowledgeable. So I wish I could speak Mandarin right now.
I might. I don't know. That's a tricky time for me to join, but I just want to really say this. We see a lot of community people and stuff, but Albert is he's on to some great things there in China, and that's a market because our products are generally in English. That it's a little bit harder to get stuff done. Albert, I really admire what you're working on. And by the way, I've known Albert for 5 years working on
Mhm.
innovative things. So keep it up, Albert. Mars, thank you for joining to support it as well.
You hit a good point in there. Rick, because we are trying definitely to expand on more markets where English is not really the language, where English is uh, rather limited, and we want people to have access to the content and to the information in their own language, because obviously not everyone is going to speak good English or English at all. So this is fantastic to have leaders like, Albert, and hopefully more countries where we are going to expand the community and engage the community on the long run. So yeah, this is a great point.
Yeah, indeed. So big thank you, Albert and Mars, for supporting. All right. Speaking of communities, want to highlight that the last Veeam 100 show, I think this was this last week. It broadcasted.
Yeah, I think that was last Thursday. Yeah, on the 5th. Was it? Yeah, the 5th
Yeah,
of
Thursday
September.
the 5th. It looks like it. Yeah,
Hmm. So
yeah.
basically,
And you
if
had,
you
let's
have,
see, Chris, Marie. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you haven't
Oh, we
watched,
got
if you
internet
haven't had
blips.
it,
Live is live.
yeah,
Show must go on.
yeah,
Oh,
the show
yeah,
must go on. Yeah,
yeah.
I was just waiting on you to say something, but I think you were just trying to say something. Your internet is just like for a minute down, but yeah, definitely, if you haven't watched Vim 100 show last week, you have the link in here that takes you to our YouTube, Vim YouTube official channel, and you have the playlist with all the episodes. You're going to find this episode as well. If you haven't watched the July August one as well, they were 3 episodes dedicated to Hackathon 2023 projects. So all great stuff. October, we are going back to normal.
Yeah, what is normal? Who knows that anymore,
What is
Maddie?
normal? Yes.
I will say, Sophia caught me last week, and I showed her. I wore that T-shirt last week, so I wore the hackathon T-shirt down in South America, so I was rocking
Oh,
it as
that's
well.
cool. Where are the pictures, Rick?
Oh gosh, I don't take pictures.
Oh,
I'm bad about that. Yeah, sorry. Working on it. Working on it. All right. So big thank you, Adam, Maurice, and Chris. Always love these types of things. Let me see if I can seamlessly do. No, of course not. Of course I didn't do it. It's not seamless, but we are back with Who's New.
oh my
Now we didn't
goodness.
we
200.
didn't do it last week. Remember, we didn't do it last week.
Yes. Yes, we
But
have.
Sophia and
That's
I were really getting the LATAM people onto it. So hopefully we have a lot of LATAM members, and we are happy to welcome plus 210. Couple of funny names in there, but guess what? There's actually 2 pages of them. So, oh, that's my normal wake up call, but I'm already awake. Isn't that a soothing sound? Is that nice to wake up to?
I
Uh,
guess so.
we're professionals here, friends. I tell you. All right,
I can,
this
I
is
can definitely see one Latin American name in there, Victor Javier Velasquez. I can.
that sounds very. That sounds definitely from Chile or Argentina. I would guess on
Yeah.
that. This one's cool. Dark. I like that. That's cool. There was one. This one. It was, first of all, it's so long. It took 2 lines, but
FM system
be here host.
here.
I don't know that, but that one. Oh,
Let
what
us know. What does that mean?
Veeam for ISAG. I like that. All right. So a lot of members this week to feature, and yeah, actually, Sophia made 4, but I made it 6 of the coolest users. Dabbler, who am I test? Who am I test? Or that's interesting. Level 2, clean water, D nice, and R2D2, harnessing my inner Star Wars fandom. And Alfred's
Cool.
pick, punk pin. I
Oh,
like
that's
that. That's
a good
pretty
one.
cool.
I love it. Yes, so good.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. I just love these funny names that come in here. They're
Yeah.
hilarious, and I just love a good sign of a healthy community. So big welcome to everyone and all the content that was featured. And Maddie, big thank you to you for curating the content. I do this week. I like didn't just walk in and like right out of bed just look at it. I looked at it the night before. I got all my tabs set, and then I went to bed and came back, 2 cups of coffee, didn't even turn off my alarm, but we did it.
6:30 already, 2 cups of coffee.
Yeah, well, it's only an hour earlier than I wake up, as you just heard the
Yeah,
alarm at 7, but it works out okay.
great.
All right, next week, what are we going to do? We got. I'm going to be in Las Vegas on the record day. I might move it a day just to do it out of travel, but we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, let's see how it goes. We always on the go, so we have to
Oof,
adapt.
oof, yes. All right, Maddie. Thank you so much for curating all the content this week.
My pleasure, Rick. Thank you
All right.
everyone for watching.
Big thank you, Sophia, also for making the Who's New, and we will see you next week on episode 184.